The invisible garden. High on a mist-covered hill lived an old master named Ken. His house was modest, made of old wood, and beside it stretched a garden that everyone talked about, though no one had ever seen it. Travelers who climbed the mountain returned with the same story. The master does not show his garden, they said, but he swears it blooms more than any other. One day, a young woman named May arrived. She was not seeking answers or miracles. She only carried tired feet and silence in her soul. Upon arriving, she bowed before the master and whispered, "I do not seek to see flowers. I only wish to rest." Ken nodded silently, as if he understood her without words. He offered her tea, a blanket, and a spot in the shade of a tree that no one had noticed before. And as May closed her eyes, she felt for the first time in a long while that she was surrounded by something she could not see, yet that was intensely real. The sun had barely broken through the clouds when May opened her eyes. She didn't remember falling asleep, but her body felt light, as if the weight of many moons had vanished overnight. Beside her, Master Ken gazed into the void, as if conversing with something formless. "Where's your garden, Master?" May asked softly, without looking directly, her voice gentle and without demand. Ken smiled like one smiles at the wind. "Didn't you feel it while you were sleeping?" May furrowed her brow slightly, as if trying to recall a forgotten dream. "I felt calm, and something more, like the whole world was breathing with me." The old man nodded. "That's it. My garden does not bloom for the eyes, but for the soul. It's made of moments, not petals." May fell silent. For the first time, she understood that some things only appear when they are not sought. And so, sitting among stones and dry branches, she began to see what cannot be seen. The days passed like the murmur of a stream, steady, unhurried. May no longer asked about the garden. She simply watched how Ken gathered fallen leaves and arranged them as if they were newly born flowers. How he greeted the dawn as if it were an old friend. How he listened to the silence as if it spoke to him. One morning, while sweeping the dirt path, May felt something different. Not in the ground, nor in the air, but within herself. A kind of warm flower opening in her chest. That's when she understood. The garden was growing inside her. "Master," she whispered, "why does no one else see it?" Ken stopped, looked at her tenderly, and replied, "Because most people look without stopping. You, on the other hand, stopped without looking." The wind blew through the bare trees, and though there wasn't a single flower in sight, May felt the garden was in full bloom. One afternoon, May was walking alone through the nearby forest. She no longer needed company or words. Every sound, every shadow spoke to her of something deep. The crackle of a dry branch, the distant song of a bird, the brush of the wind on her skin, all were part of the same nameless language. She then remembered how she had arrived there, with eyes tired from seeing and a heart full of questions. And now, without having received any direct answer, she felt that everything had been answered. Upon returning, Ken was sitting beneath the same tree, motionless like an ancient stone. "Master," May said softly, "how do you care for a garden that cannot be seen?" Ken slowly opened his eyes, with presence, with attention, with gratitude. Then he added, as a leaf fell between them, "And when you forget it exists, don't worry. The garden will know how to wait for you." May smiled. Inside, she felt a new invisible flower blooming in her soul. That night, as the sky filled with shy stars, May sat alone facing the darkness. She wasn't afraid. For the first time, she felt that silence was not emptiness, but companionship. She closed her eyes and remembered her childhood, her journeys, the times she sought meaning in the words of others. Everything seemed distant now, like a river that no longer flows in the same bed. "Why didn't anyone tell me about this before?" she murmured. Ken, who had arrived silently, answered without surprise. "Because no one can show you the invisible until you are ready to see it." "And what if I forget?" May asked, watching the shadows dance among the branches. The master sat beside her. "Then the garden will wait inside you, like a sleeping seed, until it rains again in your soul." A gust of wind crossed the mountain. It brought no cold, only peace. May understood that sometimes the truest things are not grasped by the mind, but by the heart in silence. As time passed, May stopped counting the days. The clock of the soul had become more reliable than the one in the outside world. She no longer wondered when she would leave. Instead, she devoted herself to small things: fetching water from the spring, lighting the fire slowly, listening to the singing of the bowl at dawn. One morning, a butterfly landed on her finger. It wasn't special, it had no bright colors, but something about it was perfect. May watched it and thought, "This is also part of the garden." That same afternoon, she saw a young man climbing the hill. He carried a notebook full of questions and eyes hungry for answers. When he arrived, he demanded to see the famous garden. May looked at him the way Ken once looked at her, with tenderness and without urgency. "If you stay long enough," she said, "maybe one day you will see it, or maybe not. But perhaps you will discover something better, that there is a garden inside you waiting to be remembered." The young man frowned, confused, but he did not leave. He sat down, and silence began, once again, to do its work. The young man, named Ren, spent several days without speaking much. At first, he tried to observe everything, hoping for a sign. A hidden flower, a secret path, a sacred scent. But he found nothing, except calm. One afternoon, May found him sitting by a rock, eyes closed and a gentle smile on his face. "What do you smell?" he asked. "Nothing," she replied. "I'm just breathing." Ren laughed in disbelief. "And that's the famous invisible garden?" May looked at him and answered gently, "Yes, but it's not mine, nor Ken's, not even yours. The garden has no owner. It only appears when you stop looking for it as something outside yourself." Ren lowered his gaze, silent. For a moment, he felt something in his chest. Not an emotion, not a thought, but a presence. As if something inside him was beginning to slowly open. The wind blew softly. Nothing had changed on the mountain, but something was awakening within him. Time continued its invisible march, like water flowing without wanting to be noticed. Ken, the old master, spoke less and less. Sometimes he would spend hours without moving, as if he had melted into the stone, the wind, and the light. One morning, May approached him and, without saying a word, knelt beside him. They remained together in silence while the sun rose between the mountains. Then Ken, with a voice that seemed to come from very far away, said, "You have cared well for the garden, May." She lowered her gaze, moved. "And now what, master?" "Now it will care for you," Ken replied. That same night, the master closed his eyes and never opened them again. He departed as he lived, in peace, without noise, without farewells. May did not cry. She knew the garden had not lost its gardener. He had only returned to the earth. And every time she breathed with a calm heart, she felt his presence in everything. In a leaf, in a stone, in a gesture. Ren, still young, began to understand. He didn't need to see flowers. He was beginning to feel them. And so, the invisible garden continued to grow, in every soul that learned to look with an open heart. Where nothing is visible to the eye, the essential blooms.